organized by UNESCO and ISQA, entitled Facilitating Inclusive Participation by Reducing Barriers to Knowledge and Information. I'll start by presenting myself. My name is Najib Moukni. I work with UNESCO in its multi-country office of Rabat, Morocco. I am based in Tunisia and I am leading the Access to Information program of UNESCO in Tunisia and Morocco. I am here as a moderator, replacing my colleague Paul Hector. Paul Hector is the advisor for communication and information at UNESCO Regional Bureau for Sciences in the Arab States and Cluster Office for Egypt, Sudan, and Libya. Paul was leading the organization of this session. Unfortunately, Paul is not here physically, but he will give you a welcome message to this session. I have the program on this slide, and I want to thank all panelists for their availability and for the interest to this session. And before giving the floor to presentations, I want to invite you to listen to the welcome message of Paul Hector. Thank you again.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this invited session organized in the framework of the 11th edition of the International Conference on the Theory and Practice of Electronic Governance, EGOV 2018. This session, facilitating inclusive participation by reducing barriers to knowledge and information, is a result of collaboration between UNESCO, through its Regional Bureau for Sciences in the Arab States and Cluster Office for Egypt, Sudan, and Libya, as well as its cluster office to Algeria, Mauritania, Morocco, and Tunisia, UNESCO's Intergovernmental Information for All Program, IFA, and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, ESCO. I am truly grateful to our partners, panelists, and of course you, the audience, for making this event possible. Information and knowledge are now the key drivers of value creation, so all nations, cities, and citizens must respond to the reality of emerging knowledge economies and knowledge societies. Participating and succeeding in this new environment and achieving sustainable development requires the breaking down of barriers to information and knowledge. But providing access is not enough. We must ensure that each citizen has the competencies, including respect for ethical principles based on human rights, to operate in this new context. Much is expected from policymakers as they seek to shape the contours of the knowledge and information landscape. They must grapple with a faster pace of change, as well as innovations and paradigms that result from interdisciplinary collaborations that transcend national, cultural boundaries and norms. There is a need for models to develop and calibrate responses and assess impacts. It is our hope that the case studies presented today will identify common threads as well as new approaches and research tracks to help us shape tactical and strategic responses. Even more importantly, I hope that this session will foster personal contacts and awareness amongst policymakers, researchers, and practitioners that may catalyze future regional and national collaboration amongst and across institutions. In closing, let me express, on behalf of the organizers of this invited session, our tremendous and immense gratitude to the EGOV organizers for their tremendous support, and congratulate them on another in the continued successful EGOV conference series. I wish you fruitful discussions and look forward to knowing the outcomes of this session. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this invited session organized in the framework of the 11th edition of the International Conference.
Okay, I want to thank Paul for this welcome message. And before giving the space to panelists to present project experiences and case studies, and of course open also the discussion, my message will be very short. I have some messages regarding this topic, regarding reducing barriers to knowledge and information, and enhance and facilitate inclusive participation. I think that access to information and knowledge is central to realizing SDG 16, to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, to provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. The right to information is a fundamental right, which was already enshrined in the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights in its Article 19. Also, access to information and knowledge allows everyone to be invested in public affairs on an informed manner and establishes the responsibility of citizens and public officials for their rights and duties. Over the past 2 decades, the right to information has been recognized by a growing number of countries. Today, there are 114 national RTI laws, even if with different level of adherence to international standards and best practices, as well as of commitment for the implementation. UNESCO has been supporting awareness-raising activities with member states and with the society for the legal recognition and the effective implementation of the right to information. Equal and universal right to information and knowledge is essential for inclusion and meaningful dialogue. Open government refers to a transparent, accountable government which is accessible to all through its services. Open and transparent government has the potential to increase citizens' trust, to fight corruption, and to enhance citizen engagement and participation. Reducing barriers to knowledge and information, that means an effective implementation of equal and universal right to information, and it's a prerequisite to ensure inclusive participation. So we will focus on the Arab region in this session. There is different initiatives from different countries with different contexts. So the main areas, focus areas, will be the accessible services for persons with disabilities, building media and information literacy skills of citizens, access to affordable, quality, open educational resources, open government, and knowledge societies. So we will start with Mrs. Rehan Gamil with the presentation on ICT accessibility. Mrs. Gamil is a specialist at Taha Hussein Library for the blind and the visually impaired from Bibliotheca of Alexandria. Mrs. Rehan, you have 10 to 15 minutes for the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. My presentation today is about the experience of Bibliotheca Alexandrina in the social inclusion of people with disabilities through assistive technology and how we managed to establish an ICT literacy among them. First, let me introduce Bibliotheca Alexandrina. Okay. the institution that I'm representing today. Bibliotheca Alexandrina is a reincarnation of the ancient library of Alexandria. The original ancient library of Alexandria held the largest collection of manuscripts in the world, as was a great center of learning for 600 years before, until it burned down in the 3rd century. The new library was reborn in 2002. And actually, it's more than a library. It includes exhibitions, a conference center, and planetarium, and other museums. Okay. The aims of the BA is, let's talk about the main ones. The main one is presenting the latest in the fields of science and technology and interacting with the digital world. And as this aim is important, so the aim of facilitating the social inclusion of people with disabilities through assistive technology is important too. So the BA includes a specialized section dedicated to offer different services for the disabled patrons. This section is divided to 2 units. The first one is for the blind and visually impaired, and the second one is for special needs. The aims of this section is providing up-to-date information services and technical support to people with disabilities, and also raising public awareness towards a better understanding of integration. Okay, in terms of this, Bibliotheca Alexandrina offers the following. We have a number of computers that are provided with screen readers, as it helps the patrons to do their researches easily and independently. Then we have magnifying software and CCTV devices. It's a magnifying devices. OCR software. The OCR software is responsible for converting text to speech and text to other digital forms. We offer also touch typing courses for kids. These courses paving the way for the children to ensure their digital literacy, actually. Then comes the ICT courses. As for the ICT courses, we have 2 main parts. The first part is the ICT rehabilitation courses for the labor market. This one aims to integrate the people with visual impairment in the labor market and give them opportunities, many opportunities to join many jobs and to join the labor market and just as like their peers. We began with beginners levels for beginners and then intermediate levels, and finally now we are offering advanced levels, advanced courses in programming and web design. The second part is ICT courses for school students, and these courses includes Windows operating system courses, of course with the assistive technology of the blind and visually impaired, the screen readers, and office applications and internet and searching skills. Okay, then the digital talking books with DAISY standards. We have a very reasonable collection of digital talking books with DAISY standards. Let me stop here for a little and talk about the term DAISY. DAISY stands for Digital Accessible Information System, and it's about how to make a digital book easy to use and easy to navigate, as it gives the patron easy navigation options. By the way, it's not only for visually impaired people. Dyslexic people also use them. We have some playback tools available at the library. Amid, Dolphin Easy Reader, Blackstock, and BookSense. The first two, Amid and Dolphin Easy Readers, are software, and Blackstock and BookSense are playback devices. And we have production tools also, Dolphin Publisher, OB and Toby, and Adobe Edition for the production process. Okay, Biblioteca Alexandrina also includes a specialized studio for the production of the digital talking books. Actually one of the important projects of the studio was the Holy Quran. It took a lot of time and a lot of editing. And the other one was The Merchant of Venice. The Merchant of Venice, the famous play, of course, of Shakespeare. And I consider it as important because the BA staff participated actually in its narration, and it was an amazing experience. It was published in the Shakespeare World Festival in 2016 in Biblioteca Alexandrina. The section also offers digital talking books trainings for the patrons on how to use the interface of the playback tools. Okay, as for the Braille technology, we have some printers available at the library. One of them, which is Tiger Elite, it's responsible for printing pictures and graphs. And it helps us a lot in conducting tactile activities and creating samples, raised samples actually, for the participants. Okay, and here are the Braille devices. We have the Brailler. It's just like the digitalized typewriter in Braille. They put the paper in it and then they type, and it comes in Braille. There is raised dots for the blind and visually impaired. And the other is Braille display. It can be connected to computer, and it has Braille lines, so the user can input and receive data with the Braille method. This is our production, Braille production. The publication about Shakespeare's famous quotes. And the cover of the booklet was printed by the printer of the pictures. It was a portrait for Shakespeare. Okay, let's move to the assistive technology for special needs. We have special educational software for the special needs people. It gives them educational information, just like how to read and write and other things in an interactive way, so they can interact with the world around them. And we offer touch typing programs for them also. And actually, the most amazing experience was the self-developed education software. The BA staff worked with the special needs, developed a special software by the Connect technology. It was software that creates a virtual environment for them, so they can interact and see in different environments such as like the real life, the environments around them in real life. And this helped them a lot in interacting and integrating in the world around them. Okay, the last thing for assistive technology for special needs was the special devices. We have this trackball. This trackball is used by some cases of Down syndrome. It's just like an inverted mouse. This ball is movable. They can move it with the palm of their hand because they have, some of them have problem in controlling things with their hands. And two buttons to control the moving. The special keyboards, it's just a normal keyboard, but touch screen instead of using the keys of the laptop or the computer. Okay, in conclusion, I just want to say one sentence. Raising ICT awareness is more important than mere providing the latest technology for them. It's important to raise awareness on how they can use the devices and latest devices, and not just bring technology or the devices and put them into the library. We just conducted activities, trainings to just fulfill this aim. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ham. As we are a small number in this room, I think I will change the way of running the session. So if you have any question to Mrs. Rihan from panelists or from the audience, please.
How many people are using this system? How much numbers of people and how often they use it and what results?
We have daily services actually. Okay. The library is it working?
Yes.
Yeah. The library includes two sections. The first section for visually impaired is a small library inside the Biblioteca Alexandrina. It has a separate computer section, study rooms for them, and also the research and activities. So we have daily services every day, and activities seasonally, just mid-year and summer vacation. We have about 20, from 15 to 20 user patrons actually every day.
Okay, so different people or the same people?
No, different people.
Okay.
And as for the other section, we have a lot. I can't just give you an actual number, but have a lot of people every day and during relation sessions. One follows the other.
There should be more centers like this.
Yeah.
Thank you for your very nice presentation. How do the attendees find out about your programs? How does someone find out about your programs? Do you advertise them or promote them? Or?
Yeah, we have Facebook page actually. We published our programs on it, so the users can know about them. And we have a website for Biblioteca Alexandrina. Maybe I forgot to show the slide of the link. It published every activity and every scheduled program, so the users can go to the reception or to the information desk of our library and just register or call by phone even.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you. I found very interesting because all the students are very new to me. I just want to know about the courses that you give. Like, what is the methodology to decide what are the courses that you provide for them? Like, it comes as a request from possible people who attend, or you check like what are the softwares or operating systems or things that are more they have better accessibility? What's the reasoning behind like the decision of the courses?
Of course, it's based on the software that we have at the library, the available software. But for other activities, we conduct new activities related to software, not related to just technology. We have another activities related to arts, education, and so on. But what we are doing, that we do our best to mingle technology with other activities, so that they can have the enough awareness to use these things in their daily life. And of course, it's based also on the new technology and new devices and new software that we received for every update in the library.
Thank you, Mr. Rehan. Yeah.
I can speak. Thanks a lot for your presentation. My question is do you have some online activities for the patients who are not who are at home and can't mobile themselves, so they can access those activities and?
No, we are working on it.
Okay.
Actually, we are working on that to have online courses and to have also online database for us for the collection and for the daisy books. We're working on let them available on a link on the Bibliotheca Alexandrina website, so the users at their home can access it easily, so they can read the book while they are at home. So hopefully we.
Thank you very much. If there is no more question, I actually have a question, maybe the last question for you. I think this is a very interesting initiative of the library, but my question is about any global and comprehensive policy in Egypt or guidelines to ensure inclusiveness of people with disability for all government websites and services, etc. Is there any, and who is responsible for that?
Unfortunately, we are not advanced to that level yet. but we are trying. We are trying with the government now to at least to have the daisy books available for the students at the special schools for the blind and visually impaired, because they are depending on braille books till now. So it's difficult. It's very difficult.
Thank you very much. It's not difficult only in Egypt. It's in the whole region.
Yeah,
so thank you very much. Let's move for the second presentation. So on empowering women in higher education through internet-mediated PhD program with Professor Izzeldin Osman from Sudan University of Sciences and Technology, Computer Systems, Professionals Council. And also a member of UNESCO's Intergovernmental Information for All program. That's right. Mr. Izzeldin is the chairman for Computer Systems Professions in Sudan. You have 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm going to tell you about a certain problem. The problem in our higher education in Sudan, the number of girls is more than the number of boys. And then when it comes to academia, you will find that there is a discrepancy. I'm going to talk about this, and I will introduce the solution which we tried, and I will show you the results and what we want to do in the future. This will take about 6 to 8 minutes, and then there is a video of 4 minutes. Okay, in the Sudan, like many countries, I just want to explain this. when a student graduates, if he graduates with good grades, he is taken as a teaching assistant with a BSc, and when he gets his master, he is called a lecturer, okay? And he may be teaching or assisting, and then in order to become an assistant professor, he must have a PhD, and then after that, he will, depending on certain rules and so on, number of years and so on, he will be promoted to associate professor and ultimately to professor. Okay, so in order to be promoted from lecturer to assistant professor, he must have a PhD. So the women in academia in Sudan, in teaching assistants in IT, the majority are women. So we have 54% of the teaching assistants at the graduates who are women, which is fair. When we come to lecturers, meaning those who have master's degree, 56% are women. This is because they are about half, and also because there are some women who could not be promoted to assistant professor because they did not acquire the PhD. Okay, so when we come to assistant professor, we only have 14% are women, and therefore this PhD thing is really an obstacle for women to be promoted in the academia. Why? Because many of them at that age get married, they get children and so on, so they get busy with other things, and therefore they cannot devote 3 or 4 years for a PhD. And because also in Sudan, like many countries, we have a brain drain. All those who are qualified, they go to Saudi Arabia or to the Gulf or to Europe, okay? And therefore, we do not have enough supervisors to supervise PhDs in the country. So many people go abroad to obtain their PhD. This is costly. So for the women, this is for everybody, but for the women it's even more, because it's costly and because they have family commitment within the country. Anybody who graduates with master or PhD will definitely find a job in Sudan, because Sudan has 30 public universities, government universities, and have about 80 private colleges. We call the college after it stays for 10 years and gets certain level, then it is promoted to university. This is what we have in Sudan. So all of those have one kind of or another of a computer studies course, software engineering or networking or IT or whatever, okay? So there is a huge shortage and requirement for qualified people with PhDs. So a PhD is a requirement for the progress in academia, and this is a problem. So our objectives are to enable lecturers, who are mostly women, in higher education institutions to obtain PhD in computer science and information technology in the country, and we don't want them to do historical research. You see, most of the people who are qualified in the country are not focused on a particular specialization. They have to do this and this and this to earn living, you know. You cannot specialize in theory of computation and stay in the Sudan, you know, who is going to appoint you apart from the university, okay? So we want them to have current research and focus to carry it for the future under qualified supervisors and at an affordable cost. So it has to be in the country, current research, and at an affordable cost. So what we do, we resort it to the internet. If the internet is used for social media, for talking, for chatting, why not use it for research and education? We want to benefit from people in the United States. For example, there are many Tunisians in the United States who are ready to share their experience with us, or from Europe, or from Australia, and so on, through the internet, and at the same time, keep the advantages of the face-to-face education in examinations, in meeting the students and so on. So Sudan University is running this program. It is now in its 8th year. This year we took batch 8. Okay? And we are using Cisco WebEx system, okay, which is interactive. Students can make their presentations, everybody can chat. At the same time, they can use it on the mobile, and so on. For the examinations, they have to come to Khartoum, to the university. The examinations are conducted face-to-face in the traditional way. We want to see the identity of the student, we want to make sure this is the student, and so on. The students are from all over the country. In other words, from Sudan is a large country, from many rural areas in their colleges. Okay, they don't have to come to the capital. Of course, they must be qualified with a master's degree. And they have to come at least once a year to meet the supervisor face-to-face in the university, and they have to come sometime for certain examinations and so on. So this statistics is a bit old, it's up to 2015. As you see, we have 65 girls from Sudan in 2011, 2012 and so on. And then those from KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, those are actually, except for 2, all of them are Sudanese. They are girls there. Saudi Arabia opened many colleges for girls and they want lecturers. So they went there with master's degrees, but their contracts will be stopped unless they get a PhD. Okay? So they are staying in Saudi Arabia, but they are working with us, and they come once or twice a year to Khartoum. And so this program actually saves their jobs. Okay? There are some from other countries, from other neighboring countries. The professors are from universities all over the world. They come to Khartoum. We have 1 week. We reserve a hotel. They come in the hotel every day. 2 of the supervisors speak about their areas of research, and the students are there. And then they ask them and so on and so on. And then at the end, the student chooses 2 possible supervisors. He says, this is my area, I like this area, and so on, 2 of them. The next semester, those professors give 2 courses introductory to their research areas, and if the student passes the 2 exams, then he chooses one as a permanent supervisor. And as you see from the statistics, we have from Australia, from Canada, from Czechoslovakia, from Tunis, from Morocco, from Egypt, from France, Germany, actually most of the countries of the world, and these have increased, many from the United Kingdom and so on. These are the professors, and they research so many areas, all the spectrum of computer science, be it Internet of Things or data mining or theory of computing and so on. And the results, I have to be brief. Up to date, we have graduated 27 women, graduated with PhD in computer science. Some of these stayed in Sudan, some are working abroad. Okay, and we have saved actually the jobs of those who were working abroad. And today we have many heads of departments in universities who are women, who are graduates of this program. And actually we have a dean of a college who is also, she's also a graduate of this program. So many publications and many, actually we have two supervisors here in this conference. One belongs to UNU, Thomas, okay, and one from Argentina. So one from Portugal and one from Argentina. They all teach in Sudan. Okay. Problems. Weak internet in some rural areas. We don't want the girl to come from Port Sudan or from Darfur to Khartoum. So we want her at home. But sometimes some of these towns do not have good internet. Because for boys from Ethiopia, we have 3 universities. sending the lecturers to this program, but no, they are not sending women. So we want, if we find some scholarships, we can get women, and we want to cooperate with African and European universities to sustain this program. So that is what I want to say, and there is a video. Okay. Sure.
Currently, I'm a lecturer at the Faculty of Mathematical Sciences, University of Khartoum, Sudan. Here is my PhD successful story. I received PSC in 1992 and MSc in 2001 in computer science from University of Khartoum. I tried to start PhD research more than once, but unfortunately stopped because of responsibilities of being a working woman and a mother. In addition, the difficulty of going abroad due to the family ties in Sudan. I spent 10 years after MSc teaching various computer science undergraduate courses. Some of the boys I taught finished their PhDs abroad and became my bosses.
As a normal person, I start searching about how I complete my study by searching about PhD. We have a lot of universities in Sudan. I went maybe 3 or 4 without mentioning names. They always told me, you have to go and search for the supervisor first and then bring it back. Then the supervisor I went, they say they are busy, they don't have time for me. So I feel so bad. I traveled out of Sudan. My plan that I do my PhD in a different country by different way. 2 years back, I heard from one of my friends, there's a PhD program in Sudan University.
Fortunately, Sudan University for Science and Technology started this PhD program. Many professors from around the world have contributed to the program using advanced ICT tools, and this is one of the reasons why I joined the program.
So I start 1 year. Some good news about the program. I hear that it's very good. The lecture is good. The way of making doing WebEx and studying online, how to take their exams, how they're preparing, bringing supervisor or PhD from other universities outside of Sudan. So finally I decided to come and register. I came 6 or 5 months back. I registered, alhamdulillah, in Sudan University. They accept me as a student for batch 4.
Started in March 2010 with courses in 3 semesters. These courses were very beneficial, motivating, and encouraging. After completing these courses successfully, I started my research under the topic with the title Credit Discovery using Data Mining Classification Techniques, Application to Sudanese Banks. Lastly, this story is ended successfully, and I was awarded a PhD degree in computer science in July 2014. I have now applied for the promotion to the states of assistant professors.
Thanks a lot for all the people in Sudan University for giving us this big and great opportunity. And this is not will be only my story. You will find 100 people in Sudan, they face the same problem which I already faced.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ziti, for the presentation and for the video. Very interesting. And now we open the debate. If there are any questions for Mr. Ziti. Yes, please.
First of all, thanks for your presentation and your output as a Sudan University for the empowerment of women. I have two things to encounter. The first thing is that in your presentation you were talking about masters and PhD in computer sciences, only in computer sciences, like why women are not able to do masters and PhD in any other field of engineering or arts. So the first thing is that. And the second thing is like in your future thing that, in the problems thing, you were encountered that the women are in the rural areas and they have the problem of internet and something like that, so they are not able to do this kind of courses. So the one suggestion is like, why don't you offer the open university program? Like it's like in my country, Pakistan, we have an open university and the women who are working in their home, they are able to get their books or their assignment material by post. So they are able to do, they are able to perform different courses, whether like without using the internet or any other kind of thing. So these are the two things.
Okay. Women are doing PhDs and masters in many other disciplines. For example, in education, the majority are women, the majority of teachers are women, the majority of our civil service is women. This is not all good, by the way, because the men have fled to Saudi Arabia for better money. Okay, so this made the women in the civil service more. But computer science is one of the areas which are scarce. You see, for example, in engineering we have people. Okay, we have professors and so on, and this is our area. Some people try to imitate this. It depends, on the field itself. Some fields are not. You cannot use the online education. Even in computer science, there are certain areas where it's difficult to supervise somebody or to do some research online. But maybe some other people, some other departments will do the same, and they may not do it because really it needs a lot of effort. You see, a lot of effort. In a country which is under the American sanctions, you see, we cannot transfer. I came carrying a paper and $10,000 for 2 professors because this is their entitlement. We cannot transfer it through the bank. These sanctions are now lifted. It will take time to normalize. Then maybe it will be much easier. But you see, it is tough. Your second question is about the internet. We have a very good fiber backbone in the country, but still there are certain towns which are very far away and where the internet is not reliable at home. So these girls, they go to the college where they work, to their offices, and connect from there. What we aspire for, we want them not to come even to their office, we want them to at home. You see, to join the lectures like the other girls in the other cities. I am talking about a place which is 1,500 kilometers from Khartoum, and it's not in the main town. Okay, so this, but we have an open university, and don't assume that the postal services are good in our country. You see, unfortunately, it is not that good. You see, naturally, we are talking about lecturers in universities. Those women are lecturers in universities, so I don't think it is a trouble for them to be in their office at the time of the lecture. But we wish that they be at home. And in any case, the system is very good because it has recording. So even if one misses the lecture, he can play it back, okay? But he will miss the interactivity during the lecture.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. That was really interesting because in Lebanon, where I work, we're also dealing with a lot of challenges with regards to implementing e-learning. And one of the things, two things keep coming up in our context, and I was wondering whether they come up in your context. Number one is the absence of a national qualifications framework. So at the national level, education is still very much defined as traditional face-to-face education, not as blended or as e-learning. And so as a matter of policy, there's no guidance for higher educational institutions as to how to go about implementing this. I wonder if you have any thoughts about that, given the Sudanese example. And my second question is a question that is kind of related to the first, because this is what the Ministry of Education says to us all the time, which is that how do you define quality in the case of ICT or computer-assisted learning, e-learning, distance learning, non-traditional learning, if I can use that term. And how do you assess, how do you monitor, how do you ensure that at the end you have graduates who meet the same standards that traditional, quote-unquote, traditional PhD programs, whether it be 3 years or 5 years, ensure?
Regarding the policy distance education, we have an open university. In my view, the government has done one mistake. It is that for our universities, we require 6 credits, 6 good in the school certificate, but for the open universities, they require only 5. So this way, they give an implication that this is kind of second-class education. And here in this presentation, I mentioned the word distance, but we never mentioned it in Sudan. Still socially, the people think that, the education where you see your teacher face to face is much better than the one from distance. So it's actually not distance, so it is blended, but still there is a problem with the distance education socially, but from government point of view, it is considered equal to the other education. Now, you talked about quality. That is why we have people from renowned universities, and we tell them that, first of all, let me say that it is very difficult to judge research, to say this research is better than, of better quality than this research, because this is a different problem run under different circumstances. But we depend on the supervisor. We do not take everybody. We take a supervisor who is an associate professor at least in a renowned university, and that he has already supervised PhD students. Okay? And this will work with him, and they will publish with him. Okay? So he is the person to say to him, to say to the student or to say to her, you cannot publish in this journal or you publish in this journal, and so on. The university only requires certain publications in certain journals, two publications for the PhD at least. But as I said, it depends on the supervisor.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to contribute to this a little bit because this is a very important question, right? Accreditation, basically, that's what it's about. And in the context of online learning, all these MOOCs out there, right? What's the quality and how do you get accredited? Someone comes along, I've got a PhD or something, and go, what does it mean? I actually worked, I think, in the first Open University in the UK. I joined them in 1971, which was the first courses were published. And we were, the most important issue was equality and accreditation, because otherwise it would never be accepted. Now the Open University in the UK is one of the most renowned universities, I think, certainly in the UK, and I think globally, with probably more students than any other university. But what we did, we actually accredited the same way that ordinary undergraduates are accredited. There's an exam board, and if there's a continuous assessment, which there often is, then that has to pass the same standard. So it's evaluated by external experts, peer reviewed, professors from other universities who come in and validate the results and look at the sample of the scripts and all those sorts of things. So it's extremely important if you're going to use these degrees, whether it's a bachelor degree, which is also in OU in the UK, 6 credits, right? Or whether it's a master's or a PhD. And we have to make sure that it's recognised in the wider academic community through peer review, the constant updating and consultation. Because otherwise education is going to go down a slippery slope where it's going on now and hasn't been value at all. So it's really an important issue, I think.
Thank you very much. The ministry has a department for quality and so on, but within the program, first of all, let me say we have professors from UK, from the University of Leeds, the University of Sussex, from the University of Manchester. They are all professors, and one is associate professor and one is a dean. Okay, but within the program, we have first of all, the student passes the exam, which is set by the professor, and then in semester 3, he presents his proposal to a panel consisting of the supervisor, an external examiner from another university, and an internal examiner. And this panel continues with the student. Every year he has to give a progress seminar to tell what he has been done during the year, and also many times they guide him, because many times the researcher goes astray, so they keep him, in the line and so on. And in one of these seminars, 1 year, this panel will say, this is enough for the PhD, you can write it down, and then he has, oral examination by internal and external examiners, just like the other forms of PhDs.
Thank you. Interesting debate. We have to move to the third presentation on open government. This is Nibal Iklebi, Chief of Innovation Section at the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, ESCWA, our co-organizer of this invited session. Mrs. Nibal Santas, the picture of her presentation. So, can you wait?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank ISDA Organizing Committee for inviting us to this session and for allowing us to have a session specifically for the Arab country. In my intervention, I will speak about the policy framework for promoting open government in the Arab countries. And this policy framework is proposed by ESCWA, which is the Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, which I'm representing in this session. This framework, we are under the framework of an ESCWA initiative. This ESCWA initiative is for fostering Public services, this is one of the major aims of the open government. Open government also, it aims at enhancing the understanding of and the engagement in administrative and other governance process. Then there is the collaboration. We try to, through open government, there is the need to, open government call for more participation, more collaboration between the different stakeholders, and more engagement in the government process. And this is what is needed in our countries. However, open government has many challenges globally and in our region as well. There are some challenges here. We do have cultural challenges, especially that most citizens, they are not really, they are reluctant in general to know how to interact with the government and to engage with government. Then there is a need to change the culture about the openness and about the engagement, the participation, to have a good citizen engaged in a very positive way with the government for the benefit of the society. There is also challenges at legislative level and regulatory level. For example, for the access to information, it is important to have laws authorizing the access to information. And there is a need to enhance the regulatory framework in order to absorb the openness and the accessibility to information and the openness of data. There is some challenges related to human capital. From one side, the awareness about the openness, about what it is for, what is the objective of it. This is one, the awareness in addition to culture, and the training about the use of the technology, the use of social media, how to interact with the government, what it is for me, and so on. Then there is this issue of human capital, which we should be taking into consideration, like what we have done for e-government. And another challenge, which is technology, infrastructure, having a good infrastructure for all citizens, tools and the training of, especially training of government officials who has to interact with the citizen in the case of open government, if we adopt it, of course. Then there are some challenges. Then in this context, are the Arab countries ready for moving towards open government? In fact, we asked ourselves this question at the beginning of this objective, and in fact, we made a survey about the readiness of Arab countries to move to open government. It is unfortunate I cannot present here in this short presentation the outcome of this survey, but we find that open government, most countries can go easily to open government, at least in the first stages. If we look at the Arab country today, we can see that the use of technology is quite good in a way. The use of ICT especially, we know that the mobile penetration in the region is higher even than the world average. The internet average is a bit less than the world average. However, some countries, like the Gulf country, for example, they are really a leader in terms of internet penetration. In addition to the infrastructure, in fact, our countries, most Arab countries, have adopted the government program, and they have implemented it, and they made significant progress. The same applies for e-participation in some countries. Some countries, they have adopted e-participation as an extension of e-government. However, in our country, we can say that the effect of the use of technology on governance is still limited. And this is what we are trying to do through this project. In fact, it's just a kind of some indication about the situation of the Arab region. We see on this slide that according to the e-government development index, in 2014, the average of the region, it was a little bit higher than the world average. And there are about 11 countries who have a score higher than the world average. This shows that we are, in a way, we are in a good shape in e-government. The same applies for e-participation. Some countries like Morocco, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Tunisia and others, they have very good score in e-participation according to the UN-E-Government Survey 2016. And the average the average of the region is a little bit less than the average of the world. The situation is not so bad in terms of use of technology. However, in terms of governance, we see here some indicators about the governance in the Arab region, the control of corruption, the government effectiveness, and the voice and accountability. And this is according to the worldwide governance indicators. In this indicator, we can see that most countries, they have a relatively good score in control of corruption and government effectiveness. However, most of them, they have their score in voice and accountability is really low. And therefore, there is a need to make a change, a radical change in this regard. In this context, ESCWA proposed a policy framework for strengthening open government in the Arab countries. And this framework, it is built in stages, and it is normally compatible with the situation and the requirement of Arab countries. This framework is derived and inspired from a number of models that we found in the literature and that are adopted in some countries. We have to make this, for the design of this framework, we took some principles, and our main principles were, firstly, that it is derived from the best practices, from global best practices. Then that it is realistic and simple and adapted to the Arab region, and that it is very well linked to the e-government program, because we feel that in our model, our open government is the extension of e-government, of course with additional elements. And this model allows the use of ICT, social media, and available technology, which is well spread in the Arab region, mobile and web technology. And also that this model, and this is really, we try to have it, that it is adaptable and applicable either to vertical execution or to horizontal execution. Vertical execution, which means we can implement it sequentially, one stage after the other. In each stage we consider some aspect of the open government and we go progressively. And horizontal execution is that when we make a specific platform or model, for example, it could be replicable to other institutions in the same country or in the same government. Then these are the main principles of our framework has 4 stages. Each stage has main focus, but it also covers other aspects. The 4 stages are, the first one is about openness, and this is very important for transparency. The second stage is about participation. The third is about collaboration. And the 4th stage, which is our objective, in fact, from the beginning, is the engagement. For the Arab country, as many of the Arab countries are not well ready, quite ready for the open government, we have included a preliminary step where the government should prepare itself to move towards open government. In this preliminary step, the government we believe that the government should formulate a kind of policy statement showing its willingness to move towards open government and its engagement towards open government. There is a need in the preliminary step also to raise awareness among citizens about open government and its benefit and how it will impact their life. And there is a need also to enhance the capacity of employees in public sector in terms of openness, how they can deal with people, how they can apply this participatory approach, and how can they use the technology in a better way. Also in this stage, there is a need to enhance access to internet in different areas, in urban and rural areas, especially in countries where the infrastructure is not well ready. There is also a need to make a kind of restructuring at administrative level and to make some change management from the administrative point of view in order to prepare the change, the employee and the institution for the change. The The first stage, it will focus on openness, then it will focus mainly on open data, on the data dissemination, having high quality data, and this is the main focus. However, in the same time, during this phase, the government can work, the government and the society, by the way, can work on other aspects of open government, like with the culture of collaboration between government and citizen, as well as between the different agencies of the government. Also, there is a need to raise public awareness about the importance of openness and the accountability of government. In the second stage, we focus on the participation, and here there is a need to enhance, to promote citizen participation in government work. And this should be done progressively and by enhancing the interaction between government and citizen, and taking into account the feedback received from citizens to consider it in the preparation of other services or other services. And also, government should work on improving decision-making mechanism to include the opinion of others and enhance it. In the third stage, it is the engagement between citizen and the government, which should be stronger, and there should be a kind of collaborative work between citizen and citizen and government. The fourth stage, which is the full engagement. In this stage, we have the full engagement of citizens in the government work, not only citizens, but also private sector, academia, NGOs, and then citizen here is generic, it includes everybody. And here we have the government should build more citizen-centered services, and should be we have to achieve the accountability, the full accountability and the transparency at this stage, and we have the full engagement of citizens in decision-making process. Final recommendation about this model. In fact, we believe that open government should be a continuous program. It is not one limited term project. There is a need to have a political will, strong political will to make the change and to apply and to move towards open government. And for sure, there is a need from the legislative aspect, there is a need to a number of laws, like the access to information law or laws related to open data and the use of data. But also there is a need to have a detailed plan of action for the government to move towards open government at institutional level or at national level. And there is a need to ensure the inclusiveness among all the stakeholders. In this, at ESCWA, we are working on this aspect, on the open government. It is part of our work to promote the regional cooperation, and our objective in this project is to have a unified framework for open government policy in the Arab countries, and to promote, of course, transparency, accountability in the public sector. There is a number of aspects for regional collaboration in this project. We think that there is a need to coordinate activity between Arab countries and to share best practices and success story. And there are some success stories in the Arab countries. There is in Tunisia, in Morocco, in Jordan, as well as in UAE. And in other countries, of course, I don't want to miss any country. And there is also some, the different governments can learn and exchange experience also in legal framework and regulatory framework. I included here some links for the useful link for looking at our objective and our project. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Okay, so I thank Mrs. Nibal for this detailed presentation on open government with the focus on the Arab countries. I think this is a good start. Mrs. Nibal told us that we need to share success stories, and we plan to present two experiences from Tunisia and Morocco, but unfortunately the representative of the Ministry of Administrative Reform and Civil Service in Morocco wasn't able to come to Galway at the last minute, so we will only present the experience of Tunisia with Mr. Ahmed Hazki, the President of the Access to Information Authority in Tunisia, recently created.
Okay, thank you very much. I agree with all she said, Mrs. Level. As you know, access to information is really the cornerstone of good governance and of all rights and freedoms that approved by the United Nations. And also it's an important tool to reduce corruption, to deepen the trust between the citizens and their governments. This right was established for the first time in Tunisia in 2011, after the revolution. It was enacted by the Decree Law number 41 on the 26th of May 2011 for the first time as a fundamental right for all citizens. This decree was in reality among the first texts which was adopted after the revolution in the field of freedoms and the rights, and it precedes other laws important as the parties law or freedom of press law and others. It provided Tunisian citizens with the legal right to obtain information in any form that is under the control of a government institution, and established a duty to disclose public authorities' documents. The general purpose to this decree law was to make a government more open, transparent, and to allow a citizen full participation in the democratic process. This right was raised to a constitutional rank in 2014 by the new Tunisian constitution. The Article 32 of our new constitution stipulates clearly that the state guarantees the right of information and the right of access to information. Thanks to grand big efforts made by the civil society. In 2014, Tunisia also became member of the Open Government Partnership, and this membership promoted the right of access to information with the inscription of many commitments to enable, in the plain action, to enable exercising this right, like open budget system, open data platform dedicated to the information dealing with the oil and mine sector, integrating electronic civil petition and corruption reporting platform, the mobile application to reinforce transparency of government activities and participatory approach, open data portals, and so on. Despite all these efforts, many weaknesses appeared when the decree law 41 was applied because of the restricted scope of power with its ramification, but not concerns other powers like judicial or legislative powers or other authorities. The absence also of a specific statute for those in charge of enabling access to information in public bodies. The jurisdictional protection was also inefficient. That's why a new organic law was adopted in 2016 after a long process between government and the parliament. The new law enlarged the scope of application of the legislation about access to information. Now it concerns not only the executive power, but also the judicial power, the parliament, constitutional authorities, public independent authorities, all regulatory bodies, all institutions benefiting from public financing, and all private institutions in charge of managing public service, and even non-governmental organizations which receive public funds. The exemption also are limited in the new legislation within the Article 24, and this new law reinforced also the institutional frame, and protect better the right, the exercise of the right to access information by creating a new authority, the Authority for Access to Information. This law in reality is considered by many independent observers as one of the best laws in the world, in theory, of course, which protect this right. The implementation of the new authority was initiated by the Parliament in November 2016 and completed in the 18th of July for the election of the board members. The new authority, which composed of 9 members, 2 judges, a lawyer, a journalist, other members who are specialized in statistics, archives, and there is also a member who represents the civil society among the council. It has many missions. We can summarize the main missions of the authority in 3 axes. The first one is a jurisdictional axe. Any citizens who has been refused the right to access information can appeal the decision to the Authority of Access to Information. The authority leads the necessary investigation with concerned bodies and can audition every person whose testimony is considered useful. The authority makes binding decision for the concerned bodies, which still have the right to appeal at the administrative court. These decisions are communicated to the parties involved and published on the website of the authority. Up to date, the authority received 75 cases in only 2 months and pronounced 27 sentences. These sentences were really well welcomed by the media and by the civil society in Tunisia. The second main mission of the authority for access to information is about monitoring. The Authority for Access to Information oversees the respect by the public bodies, by the institution and the provision of the new law of their commitments regarding proactive publication of information. And prepares an annual report containing suggestion and recommendation for the promotion of this right, and which is published on the website of the authority. This report is sent and shared with the President of the Republic, the Assembly, and the Prime Minister. Third mission, important, is about promoting the culture of access to information, because, like said Madame Mrs. Ribel, it's, I think, the most important fact is, or challenge is a cultural one, because we have a long inheritance of social and political, of secrecy, of confidentiality, of retention of information in our country. So the Authority for Access to Information has to promote this culture for access to information, promote a culture of openness in coordination with the bodies submitted to the law and with the organization of civil society, with the media also. This should be made through raising awareness activities and education training above all. Besides these missions, the authority also has a consultative role, which consists on expressing opinion about laws, decrees, or any statutory text having link with access to information, and also has to exchange experience with foreign counterparts or other dedicated international organizations. The challenges regarding the effective implementation of the right to access information are various in reality. The first one, as I said, is political and cultural, about the political and cultural environment constrained by the absence of the transparency and information sharing culture. Also, this right is unknown by a large part of citizens who aren't aware enough of its importance, of its impact on the improvement of the quality of public services. The second challenge concerns the logistic and material. The lack of humans means the lack of material means which are and the logistic necessary at above all at the regional and the local levels. The proactive publication of the information and the updating of this information is a huge problem at the regional level and local level, where local and regional authorities need to create websites, and even when these websites exist, we have noticed failures at the level of the publication and of the updating of this the data. Also, we have a problem which concerns the low level of digitalization of documents within public bodies, because a big quantity of data and information still remain in paper format, while delays the publication, beside all difficulties related to the absence of classification of documents and the bad circulation of information within the public institution. I think that appropriate setting of the right to access information requires, as she said, Mrs. Nibel, the conjunction of all efforts, public efforts, private efforts, media, civil society, there is an enormous work which must be undertaken by all these partners to strengthen the capacities of the various actors involved in the implementation of the right to information and to develop initiative around this right. I want to thank you for your attention and excuse my English because it's the first time that I explain to a public in this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. The English was right. So thank you very much. The important is not the information that we understood by audience. So if there is any question to Mr. Ahmed regarding the Tunisian experience on access to information and the establishment of the new Access to Information Authority, I will start by Mr. President.
My question is, thank you very much for information, and I hope the government in the region will all apply this, the right of access to information. My question is, has the authority received any complaints from citizens who approached some government department for information and it was not given or delayed?
Yes. As I said, we have received until now in about 2 months about 75 cases of complaints, and we have made the instruction in these cases, and we pronounced about 27 judgments, yes, and the major party in favor of access to public documents.
Thank you. Is there any other question for Mr. Ahmed? Mr. Rehan, yes, please. I have a question for you, Mr. Ahmed. Is there any specific commitments that the instance itself is trying to defend for the new OGP National Action Plan of Tunisia, the third National Action Plan, to try to defend some commitments that can reduce barrier to knowledge and information, mainly regarding disabled people, rural women, or in some also important sectors such as education and maybe natural resources governance.
Of course, we consider that all the commitments are aimed to the more open government in Tunisia, more transparently. So we haven't participated in the first and second plans because the authority didn't exist. But now we will participate actively in the third plan action, and we will defend all the commitments, and we will propose some commitments to promote the open government.
Thank you very much. So I know that civil society organizations in Tunisia are very active and trying to propose many commitments toward transparency and accountability. I think now with an independent instance or authority of access to information can be a good ally for civil society organizations in advocating such engagement and such commitments. So, Mr. President. Yes, of course.
For the civil servants and people assuming leadership jobs in the government, how do you treat the problem of the transparency versus their private affairs? I mean, people may ask, for example, about certain private things regarding a minister. They are private, but he's a civil servant. And you should know if he has money, how much money he has, and things like that. How do you deal with these things? Where do you put the barrier between privacy and transparency?
Yes, sure that the transparency is the principle. But there are some exceptions in the law. Among this exception, all information which can harm privacy, life or privacy. So I don't think if there is my answer.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. Yeah, yes, please.
I will try to explain. I agree with Mr. Ahmed. The principle in stipulating by the law is transparency, of course, but our law is very clear about exceptions. There are two articles which stipulate the exception, and among these exceptions we have protection of personal data and intellectual property rights, and of course exception relating to the security and the defense. But there is special details in our law. These exceptions are not absolute. So, our instance have appreciation to appreciate general interest and harm and prejudice. We are waiting more cases to establish jurisprudence and to try to practice our new law. And our new law is classified by UNESCO among the 10 best law in the world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdel Masoud is the Vice President of the Access to Information Authority. That's why he is declining. Yes, in the Tunisian law, there is a reduced. I think we have to remove it. And there is exemptions, of course, to the right.
Ways to solve problems. Okay. Particularly problems like the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay? So it's really applied knowledge organised in a way that can help us improve the status of the world, and obviously the framework of the SDGs is doing that. So I was one of a number of people working with UNESCO, with Paul Hector, as you saw earlier on, to provide a handbook and a level of understanding about what moving from an information society to a knowledge society entails. I'll quite to be brief because we haven't got much time left, I don't think. So I'm the last person keeping you from the final, your copy of the final event. So, but basically there are two main approaches, or two main parts here. Conceptual framework. What do we mean by knowledge society and how is it structured? Looking at some of the building blocks and how we can manipulate them. And then what is the process? What are the processes involved in building a knowledge society? And this is really a handbook, not particularly for the Arab region, because it's really much more aimed at some more developing and emerging economies, and not as a detailed template, but as a handbook to help policymakers design the move from an information to a knowledge society. So, and you can find it online. I'll give you the link later on. So, the first step in understanding what we mean by knowledge society is to have a look at what we call the societal architectures. If we go back to the industrial society We had society, which is people basically. Then we had the economy, which is trying to add value, through commerce and other activities. And then the factories were being developed at that time, of course. And the environment, which was the landscape, and where most people still worked, although they were moving to factories. And then we had the government system on top of that, trying to organise that, which of course was quite small in those days. And then we moved mainly in the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s to an information society, where we invented and started to use infocom is the word which UNESCO uses. It's really information and communication technologies. So we added that as a supporting layer at the bottom of those 4 elements at the top. But now we're trying to move to a knowledge society, another layer, but on top of those other layers there. But critically, we're focusing a lot more on education. By education, I also mean research and academia, of course, right? Building the capacity of people to learn and apply the information in knowledge. And of course, we've had education since the beginning, but it's not really been a factor involved in the way society has developed before. It's often in the past been seen as a luxury almost, right? The elite few who go to get some education and go to school. So this is where we are at the moment. This is how we try to envisage what's going on. And we can apply this last model here to these sustainable development goals. And if you put all the different 1 to 17 sustainable development goals into some sort of construction architecture like that, you can get a picture which is quite, it's contrived of course, but it may make some sense. If you look at the 4 pillars there, society, education, economy, environment, those are the goals we want to achieve. That's the end result we want to achieve. The things going across, the infocom, ICT really, knowledge, and then the governance which keeps everything together. Those are the means of doing it, right? And we know that in the SDGs, the big difference between the SDGs and the Millennium Development Goals was that we added number 16 and 17, which is really the governance layer. But also we have the knowledge layer here, which is about capacity building, science, technology, innovation, knowledge application, knowledge sharing, knowledge transfer. These are all new elements in the development goals, which we all agree are very, very important, because how can you achieve those goals without something like this being recognised and being supported? I want to go back to this idea of the quadruple helix for a moment, right? Because the focus here is how is knowledge, innovation and knowledge created? Who are the actors? What are the components of that? And you're all familiar with this, I think, but there are 4 main stakeholders, or 4 main sources of innovation and knowledge. The first one, of course, was the single helix, which was the pre-industrial society. It was just, there were a few universities around, okay? Not many, but there were a few around, who were producing knowledge and innovation. And then in the industrial society, we had the double helix, where we added industry and business to academia and universities. And they were, many of the early innovators were people from universities who were looking at, in the Enlightenment, looking at science and technology and building businesses on top of that. And then we had the triple helix, which is, many people are still using this term, the triple helix, where we added government and the public sector. There was an important role for government in developing knowledge and innovation. And we had in the 60s and 70s in many countries around the world this idea of developing national and regional innovation systems, which are very important, which are focused on strategically on developing the economy in different ways, focusing on this part of the economy or that part of the economy. So the role of government was first really recognised to develop knowledge and innovation as late as the 60s and 70s in many parts of the country. But then, of course, the missing part of that is, as you've been talking about, is civil society. So we had the quadruple helix. So people say, well, there's a whole lot of knowledge and information and sources of participation from ordinary people, communities. And we had all these books like the Wisdom of the Crowd, if you remember that, and crowdsourcing. Now, people out there, it's not just in professional people in institutions, in government and in business, in the universities, who are able to innovate and create new knowledge.
and new products and services, everybody can be involved in that process. Okay? And so civil society is now recognised as an extremely important part of developing knowledge, creating innovation, and improving welfare and prosperity in society. So that, in a sense, that's where we are now. But there's another step here. If we're thinking about a sustainable knowledge society, one which is sustainable in environmental, social, and also in economic terms, there's something missing in this. I just want to go through a couple of steps. We've got the triple helix, which is the information transition, where we had academia, business, and public sector. And then we had the quadruple helix, as I've just described, where we added civil society. Many people are now talking about we need an additional step, and you can see there this is adapted from a group of people called, we did some work on this in 2012, which we want to go to the quintuple helix. If you've heard of that before, perhaps not. We're adding a fifth element, a fifth source of innovation, which is nature. Nature has been innovating for billions of years. Right? Often many of the problems we want to solve in society, in industry and in commerce and even in society itself, we can see what nature has done to solve some of those problems. And this is now seen as an extremely important source of innovation. And that's called the quintuple helix. It's really the transition we need to a sustainable social, economic and environmental knowledge society. So we've got now here 5 elements which we want to look at. And so building this subsystem, and the 6th element here is the infocom, which is the technology itself. We've got all these different aspects here: governance, education, research, economy, environment, infocom, and civil society. And they're all contributing, taking knowledge from the circulation of knowledge in the knowledge society and applying that knowledge as know-how and contributing back into that circular process. So these are really the elements and how we arrive at those elements in order to understand how to build a knowledge society. And also it's important to look at these 6 elements here, the different types of knowledge and the capital in innovation associated with those subsystems. So we look at governance first. Governance gives us political and legal capital. And in terms of innovation, we talk about public sector innovation, open governance, as has been mentioned before, providing knowledge and information for the new economy. In education and research, we have human and science capital. In the economy, we have economic capital. The environment, we have natural capital, which you've probably heard about. The capital involved in nature and the way it develops in ecosystems and in providing examples for people to copy in industry and in business. And much of 3D printing these days is based upon what happens in nature. You know, when a spider builds its web, it's actually 3D printing in many ways, combining different elements. And many of the early 3D printers looked at the way spiders were building their webs and mimicked those examples. Then we have technology and information capital, and also civil societies providing social and cultural capital, of course, including traditional knowledge, which often, in the past has often been neglected. Many societies have long memories of traditional knowledge, ways of solving problems, which we often also need to capitalise on in many ways, I think. And that's now being recognised. Many of the traditions of maybe lost tribes in Amazonia, how they live in the tropical rainforest, how they use certain plants and live with animals and use the trees. That is traditional knowledge which we waste at our peril if we don't capture it. And of course all the natural capital involved in many of these species which we haven't even discovered yet, right? They're getting, many of them are getting destroyed. And that's a huge loss of knowledge and potential innovation to solve some of the problems we need to tackle in the future. But how do we, my final couple of slides, how do we, I know time is short, how do we prepare people and organisations for knowledge society? We want to move up this left-hand arrow here, a sustainable development impact. The first thing we need to do is provide access and availability. both to the technology, of course, but also to knowledge itself. And that also includes affordability. We have to give as widespread access, affordability and availability to as many people as possible, many groups in society as possible. And then the next step is giving people the basic skills and opportunities to use that knowledge and also that technology. How do we do that? People need basic skills to access, use a computer, go online, and also having access to the knowledge, having access to information, as you were just talking about before. These things can be done quite quickly in principle. It's what I call the supply side. But that's not enough in itself. That's not going to produce solutions to all the many problems we face in society. We need a lot more than that, because many people, many groups in society, they have different needs and different problems. Some people have higher education and different types of jobs. Many people who are poor, for example, need particular help. So we need to also develop the human resources in our societies to make sure that no one's left behind, make sure that no one's excluded from access to knowledge and technology. So that's a very important aspect to develop before we can actually start solving some of our problems. The next step is to ensure that the technology and the knowledge we have is used in a beneficial way, right? Creating skills which can be applied to solve problems, which can be applied to get a better job, for example, which can be applied to improving cultural knowledge and to solve problems of social cohesion, as well as develop new businesses and new sectors. And the final sort of step in this is actually not only to give people a chance to create new benefits and new solutions, but to get them directly involved through participation, co-production and co-creation in this. So the whole of society, all those different actors I've been talking about, are equally involved in solving problems. And it's not just something that's, we're not just consumers of technology and knowledge, but we're also all involved in developing it and creating it. So these are what we need to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And if you go to the handbook, which you can find online, you can see that the way we've constructed, it's not just me, it's other people as well, constructed this handbook. It breaks things down in these sorts of ways and provides a lot of advice and examples and particularly for policymakers, how some of these issues can be dealt with and what can be done at a sort of basic level to try to solve some of the Sustainable Development Goals. And very finally, we look at the processes and the policy components which we need to look at, and there's advice, extensive advice and examples in each of these different steps that can be taken in developing a policy and applying it, and then making sure that we actually try to solve and address some of the critical issues which we're facing in society today. So this is really a handbook which has been prepared by a number of experts together with Paul Hector. And you can go online and let me just, there's the addresses here, but you can just search for it online basically.
Let's go to... Thank you very much for this interesting presentation, and if there is any question to Jeremy, please. Yes.
First, I found very interesting. When you think about nature, the nature you say is the fifth source of innovation, but actually
I would like to conclude the session by this highlight.
It's interesting because it's the source that has always been there, even before the industry and everything.
Yeah.
Like nature has always been there, but then.
Sorry. No, it's okay.
Yeah, this is more like a comment. But my question regarding like knowledge societies. We talk about like basic skills like access to information, access to internet.
Yeah.
But I believe like one of the main skills, let's say, not only access information, is like how to criticize the information.
Yes.
Like critical skills. I would like to know how critical skills enter in your framework, and what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, there are two parts. When I say this, this is not my idea, but I mean I'm developing it. Nature is a source of innovation and knowledge. It's obvious when you think about it. Nature's been innovating for billions of years, as I say, and there are many problems which have been solved. I often say, if you have a problem in society or in the economy, maybe nature's already solved that problem, or you can copy nature and be inspired by nature. And in Europe now we have many programs which are doing this. There's an urban development program called Nature-Based Solutions for Urban Re-Engineering, which is very much helping to solve social problems, reducing crime and reducing well-being of the city. So working with nature, seeing nature as a source of innovation and a source of knowledge, which we can learn from it, I think is extremely important. In terms of being critical, of course, in those final steps that I showed there, where you know.
For boys from Ethiopia, we have 3 universities sending their lecturers to this program, but no, they are not sending women. So we want, if we find some scholarships, we can get women, and we want to cooperate with African and European universities to sustain this program. So that is what I want to say, and there is a video. Okay. Sure.
Currently, I'm a lecturer at the Faculty of Mathematical Sciences, University of Khartoum, Sudan. Here is my PhD successful story. I received PhD in 1992 and MSc in 2001 in computer science from University of Khartoum. I tried to start PhD research more than once, but unfortunately stopped because of responsibilities of being a working woman and a mother. In addition, the difficulty of going abroad due to the family ties in the Sudan. I spent 10 years after MSc teaching various computer science undergraduate courses. Some of the boys I taught finished their PhDs abroad and became my bosses.
As a normal person, I start searching about how I complete my study by searching about PhD. We have a lot of universities in Sudan. I went maybe 3 or 4 without mentioning names. They always told me, you have to go and search for the supervisor first, and then bring it back. Then the supervisor I went, they say they are busy, they don't have time for me. So I feel so bad. I traveled out of Sudan. I planned that I do my PhD in a different country by different way. 2 years back, I heard from one of my friends there's a PhD program in Sudan University.
Fortunately, Sudan University for Science and Technology started this PhD program. Many professors from around the world have contributed to the program using advanced ICT tools, and this is one of the reasons why I joined the program.
So I start 1 year. Some good news about the program. I hear that it's very good. The lecture is good. The way of making doing WebEx and studying online, how to take their exams, how they're preparing, bringing supervisor or PhD from other universities outside of Sudan. So finally I decided to come at Easter. I came 6 for 5 months back. I registered, alhamdulillah, in Sudan University. They accept me as a student for batch 4.
Started in March 2010 with courses in 3 semesters. These courses were very beneficial, motivating, and encouraging. After completing these courses successfully, I started my research under the topic with the title Credit Discovery using Data Mining Classification Techniques, Application to Sudanese Banks. Lastly, this story is ended successfully, and I was awarded a PhD degree in computer science in July 2014. I have now applied for the promotion to the status of assistant professors.
Thanks a lot for all the people in Sudan University for giving us this big and great opportunity. And this is not will be only my story. You will find 100 people in Sudan, they face the same problem which I already faced.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ziti, for the presentation and for the video. Very interesting, and now we open the debate. If there are any questions for Mr. Ziti. Yes, please.
First of all, thanks for your presentation and your output as a Sudan University for the empowerment of women. I have 2 things to encounter. The first thing is that in your presentation you were talking about masters and PhD in computer sciences, only in computer sciences, like why women are not able to do masters and PhD in any other field of engineering or arts. So the first thing is that. And the second thing is like in your future thing that, in your problems thing, you were encountered that the women are in the rural areas and they have the problem of internet and something like that, so they are not able to do this kind of courses. So the one suggestion is like, why don't you offer the Open University program? Like it's like in my country, Pakistan, we have an Open University, and the women who are working in their home, they are able to get their books or their assignment material by post. So they are able to do, they are able to perform different courses, whether like without using the internet or any other kind of thing. So these are the 2 things.
Okay. Women are doing PhDs and masters in many other disciplines. For example, in education, the majority are women, the majority of teachers are women, the majority of our civil service is women. This is not all good, by the way, because the men have fled to Saudi Arabia for better money. Okay, so this made the women in the civil service more. But computer science is one of the areas which are scarce. You see, for example, in engineering we have people. Okay, we have professors and so on, and this is our area. Some people try to imitate this. It depends, on the field itself. Some fields are not. You cannot use the online education. Even in computer science, there are certain areas where it's difficult to supervise somebody or to do some research online. Maybe some other people, some other departments will do the same, you know. And they may not do it because really it needs a lot of effort. You see, a lot of effort. In a country which is under the American sanctions, you see, we cannot transfer. I came carrying a paper and $10,000 for 2 professors because this is their entitlement. We cannot transfer it through the bank. These sanctions are now lifted. It will take time to normalize. Then maybe it will be much easier. But you see, it is tough. Your second question is about the internet. We have a very good fiber backbone in the country, but still there are certain towns which are very far away and where the internet is not reliable at home. So these girls, they go to the college where they work, to their offices, and connect from there. What we aspire for, we want them not to come even to their office, we want them to at home. You see, to join the lectures like the other girls in the other cities. I am talking about a place which is 1,500 kilometers from Khartoum, and it's not in the main town. Okay, but we have an open university, and don't assume that the postal services are good in our country. You see, unfortunately, it is not that good. You see, naturally, we are talking about lecturers in universities. Those women are lecturers in universities, so I don't think it is a trouble for them to be in their office at the time of the lecture. But we wish that they be at home. And in any case, the system is very good because it has recording. So even if one misses the lecture, he can play it back, okay? But he will miss the interactivity during the lecture.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. That was really interesting because in Lebanon, where I work, we're also dealing with a lot of challenges with regards to implementing e-learning. And one of the things, 2 things keep coming up in our context, and I was wondering whether they come up in your context. Number one is the absence of a national qualifications framework. So at the national level, education is still very much defined as traditional face-to-face education, not as blended or as e-learning. And so as a matter of policy, there is no guidance for higher educational institutions as to how to go about implementing this. I wonder if you have any thoughts about that, given the Sudanese example. And my second question is a question that is kind of related to the first, because this is what the Ministry of Education says to us all the time, which is that how do you define quality in the case of ICT, of computer-assisted learning, e-learning, distance learning, non-traditional learning, if I can use that term. And how do you assess, how do you monitor, how do you ensure that at the end you have graduates who meet the same standards that traditional, quote-unquote, traditional PhD programs, whether it be 3 years or 5 years, ensure?
Regarding the policy distance education, we have an open university. In my view, the government has done one mistake. It is that for our universities, we require 6 credits, 6 good in the school certificate, but for the open universities, they require only 5. So this way, they give an implication that this is kind of second-class education. And here in this presentation, I mentioned the word distance, but we never mentioned it in Sudan. Still socially, the people think that, the education where you see your teacher face to face is much better than the one from distance. So it's actually not distance, so it is blended. But Still, there is a problem with the distance education, social, but from government point of view, it is considered equal to the other education. Now, you talked about quality. That is why we have people from renowned universities, and we tell them that, first of all, let me say that it is very difficult to judge research, to say this research is better than, of better quality than this research, because this is a different problem run under different circumstances. But we depend on the supervisor. We do not take everybody. We take a supervisor who is an associate professor at least in a renowned university, and that he has already supervised PhD students. Okay? And this will work with him, and they will publish with him. Okay? So he is the person to say to him, you can, to say to the student or to say to her, you cannot publish in this journal, or you publish in this journal, and so on. The university only requires certain publications in certain journals, two publications for the PhD at least. But as I said, it depends on the supervisor.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to contribute to this a little bit, because this is a very important question, right? Accreditation, basically, that's what it's about. And in the context of online learning, all these MOOCs out there, right? What's the quality and how do you get accredited? Someone comes along, I've got a PhD or something, and what does it mean? I actually worked, I think, in the first Open University in the UK. I joined them in 1971, which was the first courses were published. And we were, the most important issue was equality and accreditation, because otherwise it would never be accepted. Now the Open University of the UK is one of the most renowned universities, I think, certainly in the UK, and I think globally, with probably more students than any other university. But what we did, we actually accredited the same way that ordinary undergraduates are accredited. There's an exam board, and if there's a continuous assessment, which there often is, then that has to pass the same standard. So it's evaluated by external experts, peer reviewed, people, professors from other universities who come in and validate the results and look at the sample of the scripts and all those sorts of things. So it's extremely important if you're going to use these degrees, whether it's a bachelor degree, which is also in OUE in the UK, 6 credits, right? Or whether it's a master's or a PhD. And we have to make sure that it's recognised in the wider academic community through peer review, through constant updating and consultation. Because otherwise education is going to go down a slippery slope where it's no longer has any value at all. So it's really an important issue, I think.
Thank you very much. The ministry has a department for quality and so on, but within the program, first of all, let me say we have professors from UK, from the University of Leeds, the University of Sussex, from the University of Manchester. They are all professors, and one is associate professor and one is a dean. Okay, but within the program, we have first of all, the student passes the exam, which is set by the professor, and then in semester 3 he presents his proposal to a panel consisting of the supervisor, an external examiner from another university, and an internal examiner. And this panel continues the student. Every year he has to give a progress seminar to tell what he has been done during the year, and also many times they guide him, because many times, the researcher goes astray, so they keep him, in the line and so on. And in one of these seminars, 1 year, this panel will say, this is enough for the PhD, you can write it down, and then he has, oral examination by internal and external examiners, just like the other forms of PhDs.
Thank you. Interesting debate. We'll have to move to the third presentation on open government. Mrs. Nibal Hiklebi, Chief of Innovation Section at the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, ESCWA, our co-organizer of this invited session. Mrs. Nibal Santas, the video of her presentation. Can wait.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank ISGAV Organizing Committee for inviting us to this session and for allowing us to have a session specifically for the Arab country. In my intervention, I will speak about the policy framework for promoting open government in the Arab countries. And this policy framework is proposed by ESCWA, which is the Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, which I'm representing in this session. This framework, we are under the framework of an ESCWA initiative. This ESCWA initiative is for fostering institutions